Time for another board recap podcast. How are you today, Dr. Smith?
Very good. Very warm outside.
Very
Hard to
warm.
believe that we are in the last third of August already.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we hit this point. I know you and I and others have talked about this where so much work goes on to put together that start of the school year. And then once you're a couple of weeks in, boy, everybody's just doing their thing, both staff and students. And it's just off and running almost like we never left.
It is.
Very exciting. So let's take a look at last night's board meeting. We'll start, as always, with good news. So we'll go through that. So, first of all, and if you're watching this as opposed to listening to it, you'll see the pictures we have on the screen. This is from our second first day of school back a couple of weeks ago when the second half of the alphabet was there. But if anybody thought middle school, junior high students don't smile when they come to school, you can think differently after looking at these pictures. So, we happen to be out at North Junior High for that day. And we had a great first day of school for our second half of the alphabet. And as you can see, lots of smiling faces, even for those students that are in the middle school, junior high years. So thrilled to see that.
Warms your heart.
Yes, it does. Whether they say it, admit it or not, they do like being back in school, seeing their friends again. Next item, parent portal. So information, if you're a family member, parent or guardian, you've already heard about this. If you haven't had a chance to do it yet, you're not being graded. You're not too late, but please don't wait much longer. We'd love all of our family members who have a student living with them to create their parent portal account. You can stay on top of your students' grades and attendance and assignments. You can update contact information. Go to our website, evscschools.com. There's a couple of buttons you can easily find that will take you to parent portal and a lot of information on how to do that if you have any questions. But this really is a great way for parents and guardians to stay attuned to what's going on in the lives of their students while at school. Did a post as well. Boy, the Delaware, the pedestrian crossing right by Delaware School, which is a bit unique because we actually found out that we owned, after a lot of investigation, this pedestrian crossing. And so we went through and did some much needed improvements and repainting and then a little work to the main entrance at Delaware, but it turned out fantastic.
Yes, it did.
Really looks good. They're very deserving for those students. And then we also put up Friday Night Lights. These are the dates from last Friday, but lifted this just because we're going to do this every week of the year. Every time we have Friday Night Football coming up, we'll do a post like we did last week. And just a reminder as well that the fall sports season is here. So check us out on social media every week, and we'll put those dates up for football games.
And if you are able to watch this podcast, these are actually the dates for this coming Friday. So on August the 25th.
Oh, we did get that changed. I'm sorry. We sure did. Yeah, because earlier we had last week's. But yeah, we're going to do this every week. And it's just a way of reminding people when it is that our games are going to take place. And also, there has been a slight adjustment this year, if you're a football fan, on the start times because we have a couple of SIAC schools that are out of town. So you'll always want to pay attention to that as well.
And the games always start at 6:30 local time. So if
Correct.
we're away at Vincennes or we're away at Jasper, it will start at 6:30 their time.
That is right. And again, I do want to shout out not just football. All four fall sports are back in swing. So we're talking golf and tennis and volleyball and cross country. Those athletes do a phenomenal job. They work so hard. So great luck to all of those sports teams and individuals.
Nothing better than high school athletics.
Yeah, and especially in the fall. It's kind of an exciting time to get back in. So
Yep.
that wraps up good news. If you would, Dr. Smith, take us into consent items, please.
Certainly will. So let's dive into consent item 3.02, consideration allowance of payment, totaling $12,375,238.21. So this is one payroll as well as also taking one health insurance premium. And then you see invoices, $3.9 million. That's because we did a lot of work over the summer and those invoices are coming due. Item 3.03, consideration to approve grant proposals. So these are 3 grants. They are all what we call non-competitive yearly grants through the federal government as well as IDOE. So the first one is for Title II, and we use Title II dollars basically for training professional development of teachers. And then the second and the third are Title III, and those are for English second language students. Okay, moving on to 3.04, consideration to approve the resolution to transfer from the Education Fund to the Operations Fund. So frequent listeners to these podcasts know that 4 times a year we transfer funding to go with the expenditures that have been transferred out of the Education Fund to the operations fund. So we transfer the funds to pay for those experiences or those expenses. 5.5 million every quarter for a total of 22 million over the year. 3.05 consideration to adopt the preliminary bond resolution and reimbursement resolution. So, state law requires us to adopt a resolution for uh, general obligation bonds as well as a reimbursement resolution. So, when we do certain things and use money from operations, then we are able to repay ourselves once we have those general obligation bonds. Item 3.06 consideration to approve contractor driver list. Excuse me. So, the last board meeting, we indicated that we had an agreement with our contract drivers, and we said that we would be bringing the contract driver list to the board for their approval. So, that is what this particular list is all about. And then we have individuals coming into the Office of Transportation to sign their contracts. And once again, those are contract drivers. Those are individuals, about 60 individuals that own their own bus and drive for us. Item 3.07, consideration to approve the donation of a CV, that's a conforming vehicle bus to SEMA, Southern Indiana Mentoring Academy. Southern Indiana Mentoring Academy, SEMA does a great job with their students,
They
for
are
our
a
students.
fantastic
They
partner.
truly are, and they find themselves in need of a conforming vehicle. So we are able to provide that for them as long as the group and the vehicle meets certain conditions. So very, very happy to do
And if
that.
you're wondering, these kind of look like you've seen them on the roads. They're kind of a almost emerging between a small school bus and a van, is
Right.
what those are.
Yes. 3.08 consideration approved change order number 1 for Dexter Elementary School classroom flooring renovation project of 2023. So, as we find oftentimes, if you're going to do renovations in a school or actually renovations in your house, sometimes when you strip things away, you
You have
find things
surprises. That's right.
you didn't anticipate.
Pleasant
So,
surprises.
right. So when flooring was removed, there were a few things that we found that we didn't expect. So that's why we have change order number 1 for 3.08. And then also 3.09, the exact same thing. And this is change order number 1 for the Highland Elementary School upper level corridor and classroom flooring renovation project. You see a change order for $1,986 to self level the floor and then to grind a crack down so that when they put the new flooring on, there would not be that bump, which would prematurely wear the new flooring out. Item 3.10, consideration to approve the agreement with the EVSC Foundation. So this really is um, a, an agreement that mimics what we see at the University of Southern Indiana. So we have a great relationship with the EVSC Foundation. They exist really to support our students and our teachers and our families. So what this is basically an agreement that outlines a revised structure for this mutually beneficial relationship of EVSC and the EVSC Foundation. Item 3.11, consideration to approve the collective bargaining agreements with Teamsters Local 215. I tell you, I think this was the earliest that we were able to get this done. So appreciate the relationship we have with Teamsters 215. This is the approval of the bus attendants collective bargaining agreement, the secretary's collective bargaining agreement, and bus driver collective bargaining agreement, as well as our special ed assistant
Boy,
paraprofessional collective.
kudos to everyone involved with this
You bet.
process. Really
A
remarkable.
lot of work and appreciate that relationship. Item 3.12, consideration to approve Toyota Driving Possibilities Partnership Agreement with the EVSC Foundation and EVSC. Earlier this month, we were very pleased to announce Toyota Foundation or Toyota USA Foundation awarded Lodge $5.8 million of funding to really transform Lodge Elementary School. So we are excited then to be able to approve this agreement basically with the EVSC Foundation and EVSC because the EVSC Foundation actually uh, wrote and submitted the grant on behalf of EVSC to Toyota USA Foundation. So,
Well, what a great
boy,
example
we
of
are,
a huge
yes,
company and their foundation really supporting the local
yep,
community.
we are excited for that work to begin.
Yeah, very excited.
All right, moving on to consideration of personnel recommendations 4.01. Those recommendations are there for everyone's perusal.
It looks like we have 10 action items from last night.
Yes. And some of these are somewhat repetitive. So, item 5.01, consideration to approve the purchase of a computer equipment for career and tech programs from SHI International Corporation. And Stacy Mauser brought that to the board's attention last board meeting. So, uh, please that the board approve that in Monday's meeting. Item 5.02, consideration to award the contract for the 2023 New Tech Institute renovation. Uh, so we're really, really excited for this project. New Tech has been housed at the Career and Tech Center, and they have really outgrown that space. And Career and Tech Center continues to need more space for the programs that they have. So this is going to renovate the school located at 3013 First Avenue. Pleased that the bids came in where under that $1 million mark, and also pleased that Dyke Brothers is going to do the work. They've asked that we move this from instead of the information to action to straight to action so that they can order things in because it's a pretty tight timeline. As we had mentioned earlier, we were going to do some renovations to that facility for this first semester so that New Tech will move into their brand new home at the beginning of
Well,
semester
that's
2.
going to be a great asset for those students and staff members at New Tech. They do some phenomenal things, and I think this is really going to support that work that they do.
Yes. And then the next several action items are really as a result of a budgetary law and legal requirements. So, permission to advertise bus replacement plan, as well as 5.04, permission to advertise capital projects plan. All of that is as a result of the statutory required provisions that we have to do for our budget. Item 5.05, permission to advertise for additional appropriations for debt service fund. Want to emphasize that this is just simply seeking approval to spend money we already have on hand. So this is not asking for additional money. This is just asking for permission to spend it. The timing just doesn't necessarily align when we have to upload documents to the state for Gateway, and then when we know our debt repayment schedule. So this is basically asking permission for us to spend money we have. 5.06 and 5.07 both have to do with building projects for general obligation bonds. So one is a public hearing, and then 5.07 is consideration to adopt the project resolution for building projects. 5.08 and 5.09 are the same thing, but they are for site projects. So when we think about building projects, those would be renovations and those kind of things. Site projects might be for equipment and that type of thing. 5.0 or 5.10, consideration approved non-certified salary schedules for the 23-24 and 24-25 school years. So we are very pleased that the board approved that Monday night uh, to get salary increases into the hands of, as the board had approved earlier, for members that are represented by Teamster 215, and then these are non-certified employees that are not represented by another organization.
And just to clarify, we use these terms a lot, Dr. Smith, on this podcast. Even certified requires a teaching license. So think teacher, counselor, principal, administrator, that type of thing. Non certified is our staff. They also are called classified, that you don't have to have a teaching license to do that position. Secretary, food service, bus operations,
Right.
that type of thing. Lots of positions in that. And that's what you're talking about when you say non
Absolutely.
certified.
Thanks for that clarification.
And then that takes us to information items. And last night we had 5 of them.
Okay, so 6.01 through 6.04, those are the monthly financial reports that Dr. Underwood brings to the board. And then 6.05, consideration to award the contract for the bus transportation underground storage tanks replacement project. So uh, this is the information item. Facilities went out to bid. All of those things came back in. So if we would take alternate bid number 1, that would bring the total bid amount to $998,812.31. So that would remove the underground storage tanks that we have with our bus department and then put new ones in.
And that's a mouthful, what you just went through, but I think it's
Yes,
exciting because we talked about fall sports, this exciting time of the year. You almost get the feel even from last night's board agenda. We're really into the meat of things moving forward with the school year now, and just an exciting time here. And it's been
absolutely.
a great start, and really looking forward to great things to come now.
By the board agenda, you can tell we are back in session.
You said it well on that one. So we're going to wrap up again. I'm going to put one more plug in. If you're listening and you're a family member, if you haven't done that parent portal, create that account so that you can jump in there and start monitoring everything going on with your student. And it's a great way to ensure success. And that's another board recap podcast
And
recap.
it's a great way for schools and families to communicate with each
Absolutely.
other. So please,
Absolutely.
please, please
Takes away
sign up.
the no surprises,
You
takes
bet.
away that element of surprise. So thank you very much for coming in, Dr.
Hey,
Smith.
my pleasure.